It was early in the morning when Alex and Lily stepped off a small wooden boat onto the warm sand of Seabird Island. The sun was just rising, and its soft light painted the sky in gentle shades of pink and gold. A cool breeze carried the salty smell of the sea, and the loud cries of seagulls filled the air. Alex, who was 12 years old, felt his heart beat faster with excitement. Lily, 10 years old, grabbed her brother's hand and laughed as she hopped along the shore. Neither of them had ever seen such a pretty place before. Waiting at the edge of the beach was their Aunt Lucy. She had silver hair that glowed in the morning light, and wore a bright blue dress that matched the sky. Her smile was warm and welcoming. "Welcome to Seabird Island," she said softly, opening her arms for a hug. Alex and Lily ran into her arms, feeling safe and happy. Behind Aunt Lucy stood her little cottage. It was surrounded by a garden full of flowers in every color, reds, yellows, and purples, and each flower seemed to dance in the breeze. As they walked along a narrow path toward the small village, Alex and Lily saw houses painted in cheerful colors, yellow, green, and pink. Every house had a small front porch where people sat quietly, reading books or drinking tea. The children waved and the villagers waved back. In the center of the village there was a market filled with wooden stalls. Each stall had a simple roof woven from palm leaves. One stall sold fresh fruit, bright oranges, bananas, and sweet berries. Another stall offered jars of homemade jam and honey. The most tempting stall was the bakery. The smell of warm bread and pastries floated through the air, guiding the children inside. Inside the bakery, the walls were painted white and decorated with small paintings of the island. A kind baker handed Lily a flaky croissant still warm from the oven. Lily took a bite and closed her eyes, savoring the buttery taste. Alex tasted a sweet muffin and felt a smile spread across his face. They sat at a wooden bench by a window and watched other villagers walk by, carrying packages and chatting quietly. That evening, after a simple dinner of fresh fish, steamed rice, and steamed vegetables, the family sat around a small fireplace in the living room. Outside, the sky had turned dark, and the stars shone brightly above. Aunt Lucy placed a tray of tea and biscuits on the table. She poured hot tea into 2 cups for Alex and Lily. The children sipped slowly, watching her with curious eyes. Her voice was soft when she began to speak. "Many years ago," she said, "this island had an old lighthouse on the highest cliff. A lighthouse keeper lived there alone, guiding ships safely at night. One stormy evening, a fierce wind blew in from the sea. The waves crashed against the rocks, and the wind howled like a wild beast. The keeper's lantern shone bright, but in the middle of that terrible storm, he disappeared without a trace. Some people say they still hear his footsteps inside the lighthouse at night. Others believe he left behind a secret treasure hidden deep in the walls." Alex and Lily sat very still. The fire crackled and cast dancing shadows on the walls. Alex's heart felt both warm with excitement and cold with fear at the same time. Lily's eyes were wide as she imagined ghostly footsteps echoing through the dark halls of the lighthouse. Aunt Lucy smiled kindly and continued, "Tomorrow morning, if you are brave, I will show you the way to the lighthouse. You will see its tall tower and the broken red door that has not opened in many years." Alex and Lily looked at each other. They felt eager to start the adventure, but they also felt a little nervous. Their first day on Seabird Island was coming to an end, but already they sensed that this summer would be full of mystery and discovery. That night, as Alex lay in bed, he thought about the stories of the old lighthouse and its missing keeper. He imagined exploring dusty rooms, finding secret doors and following hidden clues. Lily dreamed of shining lights and secret maps, and she wondered what treasures might lie beyond those silent walls. Outside, the breeze whispered through the trees, and the children fell asleep with hearts full of hope, ready for the adventure that awaited them at sunrise. The next morning, Alex and Lily met Rosie, Tom, and Mia at the edge of the forest. The narrow path led them through tall trees and over smooth stones toward the old lighthouse. As they walked, the air felt cool and quiet. Seagulls cried overhead, but the sound seemed far away. When they reached the lighthouse, its white walls were cracked and stained by years of wind and rain. The red door hung off one hinge, leaning outward as if someone had tried to force it open long ago. Alex lifted a small crowbar that Rosie had brought. He held it with both hands and gently slipped it under the door's edge. With a slow push, the door creaked open. Dust rose in a soft cloud, and the children stepped inside one by one. The air felt stale and cool. Their flashlight beams cut through the darkness, revealing broken glass panes and wooden beams. Each step they took echoed up the tall tower. A spiral staircase wound its way to the top. The wooden steps groaned beneath their weight. Cobwebs hung in every corner, and bits of old rope lay coiled beside broken lanterns. On the second landing, Lily froze. She held her flashlight close to her chest and blinked. Behind them, a sharp scraping sound came from above. It sounded like footsteps on wood. The children stood very still. Tom held his breath. After a long moment, the sound stopped. Then they moved again, climbing slowly and carefully. When they reached the lantern room at the top, they felt a cool breeze. A large, cracked lens stood in the center. The metal frame was bent, and the glass was cloudy. Alex shone his flashlight on the lens and gasped. A pale blue light glowed from inside the glass. No wires or batteries were anywhere to be seen. The light was real, soft but steady. Shadows danced on the walls as the light flickered. The children looked at each other in wonder and fear. Near the far wall, Mia pointed to a tall wooden bookshelf. It stood out among the dusty equipment. Alex moved closer and ran his fingers along the bottom shelf. He felt a small brass handle attached to the wood. With Rosie's help, he pulled the shelf away from the wall. Behind it was a narrow door, half hidden by dust and cobwebs. Taking a deep breath, Alex turned the handle and opened the door. A thin corridor led into darkness. The children shone their lights down the passage. At the end of the narrow hall lay an old chest. It was covered in rust, and its lock was broken. Alex knelt beside it and pressed the lid. It opened with a soft creak. Inside lay a tattered map marked with strange symbols and old words. Lily reached out and lifted the map gently. The lines on the paper showed the shape of the island, the lighthouse, and other secrets yet to be found. Their hearts pounded as they realized they had the first real clue to the island's hidden treasure. It was early morning when the 5 friends gathered in Aunt Lucy's cozy kitchen. Sunlight filtered through the curtains, and the smell of warm tea and freshly baked bread made them smile. Alex spread the old map on the wooden table and read the first riddle. Where roots dig deep and branches hold the sky, find the mark that lets no traveler pass by. Rosie tapped the map. The ancient oak tree, she said. Mia handed Alex a small shovel. Together they set off down the winding path toward the forest's edge. At the base of the great oak, its roots twisted like giant fingers around the earth. Alex cleared away the soil with careful taps of the shovel. Suddenly his hand struck a small wooden box buried beneath the roots. He lifted it out and opened it to reveal a brass key that gleamed in the morning light. Lily held the key gently. "Key number 1, she whispered, and the friends felt a rush of excitement at their first success. Their second clue led them to the secret cove, reachable only when the tide was low. They followed the map's path along rocky shorelines, listening to the soft lapping of waves. As they reached the cove, Tom pointed to a flat stone marked with the same symbol from the map. He pressed it, and a hidden compartment slid open to reveal a second brass key and another riddle. Beyond the waves, where crystals sing, light and shadow reveal everything. They tucked the key safely into Rosie's bag and hurried back toward the forest. The final riddle took them to a hidden cave beneath the island's cliffs. A narrow entrance led into a chamber where the walls seemed to glow with tiny crystals. Each crystal reflected their flashlight beams like thousands of tiny stars. Alex and Lily carefully followed the map's directions until Lily spotted a small crevice behind a cluster of crystals. She reached in and pulled out the third brass key, her hands trembling with joy. The friends cheered softly, their hearts full of pride. Carrying all three keys, they returned to the old lighthouse, where their adventure had begun. The tower stood tall against the sky, its broken red door still hanging on one hinge. In the lighthouse's base, Rosie found 3 small slots in a stone wall. One by one, the children fitted the keys into the slots. Each key turned with a soft click. Then, with a low rumble, a section of the wall slid open to reveal a secret chamber beyond. Inside, the air was cool and smelled of salt and old wood. Shelves lined with jars of glittering gems and stacks of gold coins greeted them. In the center of the room stood a large wooden chest secured with an iron lock. Alex knelt before it and turned the lock until it clicked open. The lid rose to reveal not only treasure, but also ancient scrolls tied with red ribbon and small carved figures of wood and stone. Lily lifted one scroll and unrolled it carefully. The parchment told stories of sailors, island heroes, and the lighthouse keeper who guided ships home. They realized that the true treasure was the island's history, written in those scrolls and held in the artifacts. The gold and jewels were beautiful, but the stories were priceless. The children sat in a circle on the dusty floor, feeling a warm glow in their hearts. Alex looked at each of his friends and said softly, "We did this together." Lily nodded and smiled through happy tears. Rosie, Tom, and Mia each placed a hand in the center, and they promised to protect the island's secret. The next day, the friends and Aunt Lucy planned how to share their discovery. They set up a small display table in the village square, arranging scrolls, artifacts, and a few shining gems under a simple cloth. Each item had a small, handwritten label explaining its meaning. As villagers gathered, the children spoke slowly and clearly, telling the stories they had read. They pointed to the map and described their journey, finding the oak tree key, unlocking the cove box, and exploring the crystal cave. The villagers listened with wide eyes, thanking the children for preserving the island's heritage. That evening, Alex and Lily sat by the shore, watching the sunset paint the sky orange and pink. Lily said, "I will never forget this summer." Alex agreed. "We learned the power of teamwork and friendship." The breeze whispered through the grasses, as if the island itself was proud. Their adventure had changed them all. They had uncovered treasure, but more importantly, they had found courage, trust, and a love for the island's stories that would last a lifetime. It is evening on Seabird Island as Alex, Lily, Rosie, Tom, Mia, and Aunt Lucy stand together by the shore. They have returned from an unforgettable adventure. At dawn, Alex and Lily stepped off the small boat into warm sand and fresh sea air. They met Aunt Lucy, who shared the legend of the old lighthouse and its vanished keeper. With Rosie, Tom, and Mia, they walked through the village, met kind villagers, and smelled warm bread from the bakery. The next day, they found the cracked red door of the lighthouse. Inside, a spiral staircase led them to a glowing lens and strange footsteps in the dark. Behind a dusty bookshelf, they discovered a hidden door and an old chest with a tattered map. This map showed 3 secret locations: an ancient oak tree, a hidden cove, and a crystal-lit cavern. Working as a team, they followed each clue. At the oak tree, Alex dug beneath its roots to uncover a brass key. At the cove, when the tide went out, Tom pressed a marked stone and revealed a second key. In the crystal cavern, Lily reached into a crevice and pulled out the 3rd key. Hearts pounding, they returned to the lighthouse where their keys unlocked a secret chamber. Inside lay gold coins, sparkling gems, and scrolls that told stories of sailors, heroes, and the lighthouse keeper. They realized the greatest treasure was the island's history and the bonds they had formed. Back in the village, the children and Aunt Lucy set up a small exhibition. They displayed the scrolls and artifacts on simple tables. As villagers listened, the friends spoke slowly and clearly in English, sharing each step of their journey. The stories brought new pride to the island community. That summer, they learned courage, friendship, and respect for the past. From their journey, we learn that curiosity and teamwork can open hidden doors in our own lives. When we work together, we solve puzzles more easily and share joy with friends. We also learn the value of history. Just as the children preserve the island's stories, we can remember our own family traditions. In daily life, listen to others' stories, help friends with kindness, and celebrate both small and great discoveries. Congratulations! You have listened to the entire story and practiced your English listening skills. Now let us test your understanding. What quality helped the children succeed in finding the treasure? A. Teamwork. B. Luck. Please comment your answer A or B below. If you enjoyed this story and our simple English lessons, please subscribe to our channel to encourage us to create more content. If you'd like to support our free work and help us cover the costs of making quality lessons, consider donating. Your support means we can continue sharing more adventures and English practice with you. Thank you for learning with us.